Let me ask you a question. Who calls who to be the evangelist and who calls who to be the
Did you
alcoholic?
hear what I said?
You see what I'm saying? Let's be honest about this thing now. We can't,
Environment,
it doesn't,
family,
here's,
influences.
here's my thing. I had this same conversation with a friend of mine last night, grooming the reviews. And we talked about, uh, do men change under circumstances? And I was like, no, men don't change under circumstances. You know what I mean? Men evolve and they change. You see what I'm saying? Because of whatever it is they need to change into. You know what I mean? It's not because of the circumstances, because who you are doesn't change. You change your environment. You don't let your environment change you. And that's the reason why it's so important to have your own foundation and to have those around you to guide you, and for you to be, as a man, to be humble, to listen to those around you, because there's always safety in the multitude of counsel. So as far as allowing other people to have you to be influenced by outside things, first of all, you should be turning and having a relationship with God in the first place. God ain't gonna lead you wrong. You see what I'm saying? Even the Bible says, order thy steps. You see what I'm saying? The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord. So my thing is this: did you pick a man whose steps are ordered by the Lord? Let's first start there. Number two, did you identify who you were and how you could serve God through this man? So my thing is this: we can't allow, the responsibility of what we're supposed to be do to off put and offset on someone else. This is what I spoke to earlier about becoming the one, instead of allowing somebody else to say, hey, I'm putting all the responsibility on the other person to be the one. That's not being equally yoked and equally responsible, as far as being able to unload whatever needs to be unloaded, because there's always better when two go together instead of just having one person drag the other person behind. So my thing is this: always make sure, if you have a question, go to God. And if he ain't answering fast enough, find your pastor, whoever, somebody else who you trust, and make sure that what they're telling you is sound and just. And my thing is this: you always want to make sure that you find someone you can talk to, because I don't know anybody who wakes up one day and just decides to be an alcoholic, who decides to be a ruffian and want to rough up his wife. You know what I mean? My thing is this: if you need to have counseling or something like that, seek counseling. But we can't continue to allow people to have the narrative that people just wake up someday and then they're a whole different person.
Can I
So that's
jump in?
all I'm saying.
Can I
Sure you
jump in?
can. Sure
All
you
right.
can.
So right in here. So we just had this catastrophe with COVID, right? That was like a world crisis. People were doing things that they never thought they would do. In a perfect world, what you're saying sounds fair, but we're not in a perfect world. Things happen. People people give up at some point. The strongest people have given up. It's not to say, well, they were never strong. Things happen. Things can happen in your life that can make you do things you would have never thought you would do. A lot of people turn to the bottle. A lot of people turned to drugs. A lot of people committed suicide. This was a world crisis. So I'm saying, in that not so perfect world, things happen. The shift happened, and sometimes moving in that shift, you just don't know what you're going to do. You never know what you're do in that case. It's easy to stand strong and say, oh, well, you got to be a man, and you're a man of God, and you believe in God. Yeah, you believe in God, but when something so something so horrific has happened, and it has snatched up your soul, snatched your spirit, taking you out of the element of worship, you have no idea what you would do. And it, like I said, it's easy to stand strong and say, well, I'm a man of God. That's easy. But when something happens unexpectedly, and you have prayed and you've been fasting and you've been the great A1 Christian in the universe, and God challenges, or I won't say he challenges, test your true faith, you never know what you'll do.
Well, here's the thing about that: God never promised us easy, but he did say, great is he that is me than is he in the world. So that means to me that, I serve a God who's my shepherd, and I shall not want. And the thing about it is, one thing to believe in God, it's another thing to have a relationship with God. So no matter what you're going through, if he holds your hand and if he walks you down where you need to walk down, and he shepherds you through the valley of the shadow of the death, all you have to do is do what he tell you to do, because he'll tell you narrow is the path. You see what I'm saying, of righteousness. So my thing is this: a lot of times when people turn to all these other things which you told us not to do, don't turn to idols. That's a us problem. That's not a God problem. God never fails us. He said, "I will never leave you nor forsake you," and that's a responsibility for us. Instead of turning to the bottle and turning to drugs and turning to this other stuff, we should be able to turn to Him first. And if you do that, you'll be fine, no matter what you're going through.
Now, let's dive even further. How many people that we see on a daily basis that are believers that said, hey, I hear the voice of God, and you find out that they are absolutely a chicken with their head cut off, wacko, cuckoo, ooh, new. You see a whole bunch of people. So a lot of times it's it's your interpretation of what the voice of God really is. You have so many people that have been trained over the years to depend on another individual to hear the voice of God for them. So when COVID happened, which, I definitely do understand your sentiments, a lot of people were leaning on particular voices. When COVID happened, COVID messed up everybody's perception of what the voice sounded like. And so, as Jared was saying, lean not to your own understanding. That's why a good preacher, good pastor, good minister is going to tell you when you get out, you got to know this word for yourself. When we look at the parable of the sower, there are going to be some seeds that are going to be taken by the fowls of the air. There are going to be some seeds that are choked. And then there are going to be some seeds that are harvested. A lot of the seeds that are pushed out are choked. A lot of the seeds that are pushed out are caught by the fowls of the air, meaning our thoughts, meaning the different things that go on, but very few seeds that actually stick with people, because the Bible says, study to show yourself approved. Now, how many people actually study to show themselves approved? May not be as many as we think. And then how many people actually apply it to their lives? May even be lesser. And then how many people actually understand and know the voice of God for themselves? We go even smaller.
That is so true. And I just wanted to interject really quick. Hey, wifey, my wife is saying hello to me, so I had to acknowledge that. But I think that Brian, Tijuana, and Jared make some very good points. This is getting very interesting. And I believe that it's so important to have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, not just to say that you know him or not knowing him by just going to church, but actually praying and seeking God, because he will give you answers to difficult situations. He will help you through difficult situations. So the main thing is, relying on your relationship with God and applying the word of God to your life, because the word of God says he will do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or think, according to the power that works in us. And so I'm going to, put that scripture in there to kind of balance everything, because I see some difference of opinion. But I'll tell you one thing before we move on about, because we're talking about the one, but just like I recently got married last year. And so me and my wife choose to love one another. Love is a choice. And so there's not just one person somewhere mysteriously in this world that's just waiting on you. I believe if you let God order your steps, you pray and you seek God, and you continue to focus on a relationship with him, he will lead you and guide you to the right person to make your spouse. And so it's not just one, but it's many people. But we choose to love one another. We choose to love one another. We choose to respect one another. And we just got to make sure that when we do choose somebody who we want to be with, that we make sure that we get God's approval, make sure that we put prayer on that, because I've made some, mistakes in the past. I've chosen women that wasn't the best for me. And so it's not just one, because all of us have been in different relationships with different people. At first, we was probably madly in love and we was enjoying everything, but there's something that always happens, and true colors come out after a while. But I'll say one thing about when you were talking about Tijuana, the pandemic. The pandemic also showed people who were married, if they really like each other, because of the pandemic, you in the house 24 hours with a person and you can't leave, and you used to going to work and they around you all the time. people were in for a rude awakening. There's some people that can't stand the same room for an hour without arguing. It's always, some type of toxicity going on in a relationship, and that proximity of being close to one another where you can't go nowhere. You got to definitely be friends with the person that you decide to get into a relationship with. And I'll just say that make sure that you get God's approval on a relationship, and make sure that socially that you're compatible. You have fun together, you like each other, because people sitting in the house, think about it. If you can't go nowhere, you sitting in the house looking at each other all day. You see the good, the bad, and the ugly when you live with somebody, and you have to deal with that for the rest of your life. So make sure that you choose, somebody that you not just love or are physically attracted to, but that you really like and have fun with. And so I'll leave it there. I want to go on.
Tomell, I'm going to repeat something.
Go ahead. Yeah, sure. Go ahead, sir.
You said when people were married, they really got to know who their spouse was. Well, there were people who were single who got to know who they were. You see what I'm saying?
True.
I put it to you like this. Sometimes God tells us not to make idols of things. Sometimes we'll make idol out of church too. There was a whole lot of church people who couldn't go to church. And I think what happened was a lot of people got closer to God. And then they birthed things that they never thought they can do. People changed jobs. People found out they had new skills. You see what I'm saying? It gave them a renewance on life. And it gave them a new perspective to say, you know what? God gave the whole world a wake-up call and said, you know what? Since y'all not listening, y'all are busy doing whatever it is you want to do. And I'm trying to get your attention. And he's sending everybody home and put everybody on lockdown to get your attention. So my thing is this: yes, you did get to find out who your spouse was, but your spouse didn't introduce you to yourself. You see what I'm saying? And they introduced you to you. You know what I'm saying? So my thing is this, man. Whenever you have an opportunity like that to grow out of a particular situation, you do it. And the Bible says, man, everything is always for the greater good of the glory of God. And it no matter whatever, it's a good issue or a bad situation. You see what I'm saying? He's always gonna get the glory no matter what. So I think that pandemic was as a blessing in disguise because it pushed a whole lot of people off the couch and into the game. I know it did for me. So that's how I got here. You see what I'm saying? Oh, yeah. And I've been flourishing as a result of it. So it's a lot of other people who have countless stories who say, you know what? Working for this company ain't really making me no money. And it pushed them out of their comfort zone. A lot of people got laid off, that type of thing. And they developed new businesses, new strategies, new friends, new locations. You know what I'm saying? It's just like the Bible said, I commanded a raven to feed you there. Sometimes your raven will get up and move and you got to find out where he's going to feed you at. You see what I'm saying? So I think that's what happened with this pandemic. So it's not always a bad thing when it's time for change. Because sometimes God will have to wake us up and shake us up to move us to the greatness that he calls us to be.
Hey, I totally agree with that. And you make a very great point. That is true. And so everybody, I think, is, dropping some gems. We getting some different perspectives. I love it. Now let's go to this second relationship point. And like I said, this is coming from an article that I read from a therapist, so everybody knows. So I'm crediting this woman for, her work. And she says the second dating issue is modern isolation and the unseen pressure on relationships. Her name, once again, I want to make sure that I always give people, these are not my words, but these are her words. And this is Brooke Sproul. She's a therapist, I believe, in Los Angeles, California. And so she made I thought the article was very interesting. But she's saying the number two dating issue is modern isolation and the unseen pressure on relationships. She says in modern society, however, we live in a more individualistic culture where people are often isolated and disconnected from the neighbors and community members. I know we was just talking about the pandemic. This lack of social connection can have a negative impact. Humans are social creatures who need to feel connected to others. And so what was very interesting here is one consequence of this shift is that we now expect our romantic partners to fulfill a much broader range of needs than they did in the past. In the absence of a strong community, we look to our partners to provide us with companionship, emotional support, intellectual stimulation, and financial stability. These unrealistic expectations place undue pressure on relationships and people, which ultimately sabotage the ability to form healthy connections. And I talk about that also in my book. And this is a shameless plug, but my book, How to Get Over a Breakup, I talk about people not being healed and they sabotage relationships because they don't know how to love the person that they're with. They don't know how to love people correctly because of the trauma that they've been through, and they haven't been healed. They haven't been healed of past trauma. So let's talk about these unrealistic expectations or expectations in general. Let's talk about that. So what do you think about that paragraph?
Who got a hammer? I'm gonna say something that's gonna be legendary. Who got a hammer?
Go for it. Go for it.
Who got a I need y'all to. If you got a hammer, get you an imaginary hammer. I sound like I'm in church. Get your imaginary hammer and break that table right now. Break the table. break the table right now. It's crazy that you said that, because I had a conversation with someone, I think it was either last night or recently, about how there is an overindulgence in individuals who want the resources of another that you have not measured the capacity of what it is that you're asking for. And I gave the example of, okay, let's say that you desire to have a Maserati, or let's say any luxury car that you desire to have that's over $70,000, right? Looks good, runs good, but you got to think about these things. You got to think about the insurance. If you get a Maserati, you got to get a special type of insurance. That special type of insurance is going to cost you over $1,000 a month. Then on top of that, if you're going to get your tires and everything rotated and all this other stuff, that's going to be other bills that are they're most likely not going to be, covered. And then on top of that, a Maserati is not an everyday type of car. It's a luxury car to only be put out for moments. And so what we're seeing in our culture is people are being asked to be in performance mode 24/7. They're being asked to give your absolute total best to a crowd and to an audience that at the end of the day, their attention span is about the time of a bag of popcorn that's in the microwave. So you got 3 minutes and 30 seconds to convince 450,000 people that you're somebody. Case in point, Jared, you probably will seen the show where you got Negroes with balloons in their hands, popping them, and then you got somebody saying, well, the reason why I didn't choose this particular person was because of this. Like, there was one crazy one where, the reason why I didn't choose her was because her left knee was ashier than her right. I said, I'm about to throw my phone. Seriously, this is what we're doing? This
I didn't
what
like
doing?
her toenail polish, foolishness like that.
And it blows me away, because there is valuable time that you could actually sit down and get to know somebody outside of the resources that you're asking for, that they may not necessarily be the person for you, but it may be the thought process that helps you understand that what you are asking for is really within your reach. But because we live in a culture that gratifies trends that everybody agrees with, now we got people who are who've hurt their own feelings, because what they're asking for is not supposed to exist from somebody else. It's supposed to be identified from you first. Well, you're supposed to understand what you need first. And then when you understand what you need first, then you let the person that you are considering being in a relationship with, you let them decide if they have the capacity to give it to you. You don't just say, hey, here's 17 loads of laundry. I need you to wash them, and I need you to wash them and fold them within an hour. No, you should have told me about those 17 loads of laundry 2 weeks ago before you dropped them on my front door.
So are you saying lower your standards?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm not saying lower your standards. I'm saying be realistic. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying be realistic. You got people that are, and I'm gonna say something to some of these ladies out here, and if I get in trouble, I don't care. Y'all can throw shoes at me.
Come on, Brian.
But you got some of these ladies out here, and one particular show, they'll come out there and say, I need a man that's gonna make $172,000, and I need him to be 6'2", tattoo, and I need his toenails to be clipped every other day. I need his hair to be curly, and I need to know that he washes his body with Irish Spring soap. And here's the thing. You can get that, but you have to ask yourself, how rare is it what you're asking for? And if we were to apply that to your life, would your life get better, or would your life be on display as you being a trophy more than you being a person? I'm just asking for the people in the back, because the people in the front are getting ready to go home after what I just said.
Did you hear what I said?
It sounds like you're saying lower your standards. I don't know.
Absolutely.
You know what?
Absolutely not. She over there playing devil's advocate. She got the mark.
Brian, we're gonna let Elder get in here because me and you been around here.
She got the mark of the beast. She gonna miss the rap. You better cut that out.
We're gonna get Elder in here, man, because we been tag teaming all night long. Elder, come in here and save your sister.
I'm just laughing around you. I'm just laughing around you. As the thoughts come, I'm like, yeah, okay, all right.
Because you already know what's about to happen.
So I feel like the whole modern isolation in the tech generation that we live in, people are so used to being on their phones or the computers, on their tablets, on all of these devices, that they feel like you have time to reach out to me 24/7. Like, I don't care if you work a 9-to-5 job. You should text me at least 4 times a day. On your lunch break, when you're in the middle of a meeting, I should get a message. You should be reaching out to me. That's unrealistic expectations. If you have a 9-to-5 job, if you're working in banking, or first of all, if you're working in banking, I worked in banking, you don't have your phone on the floor. You're not even allowed to have your phone out. So there are certain jobs where realistically, if you're thinking realistically, it's impossible for me to reach out to you 24/7. Just because you didn't get a text message from me, just because you didn't get a phone call from me, doesn't mean I'm not thinking about you. I'm just not able to reach out to you right now. So realistically, you have to think about what you're asking for. Can this be done? You know, when you pick the person that you're with, what their job is, because one of the questions you say is, what do you do for a living? So if you know what the person does for a living, you know realistically whether they have the time to reach out to you or not. You know realistically that if I'm waking up at 5 a.m. in the morning, I might shoot you a text message, but at 9 a.m. if I'm clocking in, I can't talk to you right now. You won't hear from me until my lunch break. So realistically, you have to think about what you're asking for. Is it possible? Here we go. Now, personally, do you take that same time out? Would you take that same time out? Yes, you may be thinking about the person, but you're like, I don't feel like texting them right now. I don't feel like talking to you right now. I don't want to be bothered right now. So what you're asking for, can you give it? Are you willing to give it? The modern isolation is that we're so closed in to what's actually happening in the world that we don't realize people are actually out here living. People are actually out here trying to make a job, rather than comparing themselves to how much money the next person makes. People are out here actually going to church and serving the Lord rather than comparing themselves to how much this person did, whether they did praise and worship and they sang the new song that I heard on the radio, how well they sang it, or did they study their scripture because I heard this translation and I'm trying to figure out where you got that translation from. How about we all know God for ourselves? How about we all have a relationship with a God for ourselves and stop comparing ourselves, because comparison kills. Every time you compare yourself to somebody else, then you're isolating yourself to your own mindset and you're forgetting about God's thoughts. Our ways are not his ways. Our thoughts is not his thoughts. So you have to check yourself. You have to think about it and say, wait, are my expectations realistic? Am I putting undue pressure on the relationship? Am I asking for too much? Am I asking for something that I'm not willing to produce? And am I willing to be heard? And am I willing to hear what this person is saying? Because the other thing is you got to communicate. The unrealistic part of relationships and the pressure that we put on relationships is that everybody don't want to talk to everybody.
That's true.
Everybody don't want to hear what the other person got to say. I don't want to hear criticism. I don't want to hear critique. I don't want to hear you talk about my mama. I don't want to hear you talk about my daddy. I don't want you to talk about my brother, my sister. I don't want you to compare my food to your last girlfriend, to your ex-girlfriend. I don't want to hear those things. Every time we hear comparison, we think negatively. Every time we hear a critique, we think negatively. What we need to do is figure out what the person is saying. Is it something that's going to edify? Is it something that's going to build the relationship? Or is it something that's tearing me down and something that I don't need to hear? Pay attention to the flags. Again, red flags, yellow flags, green flags. Pay attention to what's being said. And sometimes you got to evaluate yourself. If I was to say that to this person, how would they receive it? If I was to speak those same words, if I was to use that same comparison, if I was to use those same examples of X in past relationships, how would they receive it? Sometimes we so caught up in the past that we can't even look at what we need to do in the future. That's another thing that we shut ourselves. Oh, I'm so shut off to the reality of where I am and where I could be going because I'm so caught up in where I used to be. But God ain't looking at that. He's looking at where we are now, and he's trying to get us to where he needs us to be so that we can help edify and build up somebody else. But if we so caught up in our own modern isolation, in our own little corner, then guess what? We ain't going nowhere. We're going to be running around, hitting the brick wall. We're going to be going around in circles. We're going to be falling into depression and anxiety and all these other things. And we wonder why we fall into, like she said, the bottle and the alcohol, and we fall out of church, and all of a sudden we don't want to be around nobody. It's because we're not trusting and believing in God, and because we're so caught up in what we used to do, what people used to do, that we can't see for ourselves. Hello, I'm in this path. Hello, I'm in this journey. Hello, this is where I need to be. And let me keep moving forward.
So I got a question to the one next to you, because she said something twice, and so the Bible says, "In all thy getting, get understanding." So I need you to break down lowering standards. I need you to exegete your statement, daughter of the Most High. Exegete your statement, what you said, lowering standards. I need a first class exegete of that statement, please.
Well, sir, it all kind of ties into you lower those standards, you won't expect so much, you won't get as much because you've lowered. And I said it in a joking way. I do not mean to lower your standards. I'm saying that sometimes the disappointment,
I know I'm messing with you.
I know you were being will go away when we lower our standards and say, you know what, I got a 8th grade degree. Why am I expecting this guy to have a PhD in that sense? So lower that standard, and maybe you'll have that person in your life, and you'll be happy and fulfilled.
You know, I'm gonna jump in here because I feel like I need to say this. A lot of people mix up preferences with standards. You see what I'm saying? And I can give you a bunch of examples. You would prefer not to work, but the reality is most people have to. You know what I mean? Most people would prefer that their spouse take on 100% of the responsibilities. You know, most people prefer that their spouse be with them 24 hours a day, 7 days out of the week. That's a preference. You see what I'm saying? A standard is where you have something that is fundamentally a part of who you are. You see what I'm saying? A standard, I'll give you an example. A standard for me is someone who listens to what I have to say. That's the standard, because that's the standard for me. I'm going to listen to them. The standard is that we're not going to, call each other out of our names unceremoniously. That's the standard. You see what I'm saying? The standard for me is that we actually serve the same God. That's a standard. You see what I'm saying? And the things that we look at is superficial, because here's my thing. Whenever a lot of women say that they want something, it's normally a preference. You see what I'm saying? I'll give you an example. If somebody ask a man, how much money do you make? And the first thing I'm thinking in my mind is that the Holy Spirit is whispering to me, and he's saying that you're dealing with an idol worshiper, because the first thing they're doing is they're trying to take and use whatever it is that you made to soothe something in them that they should have went to God to first. You see what I'm saying? Because I don't know anybody who was buried with the house. I don't know anybody who was buried with their car. I don't know anybody who was buried with their money. You see what I'm saying? My thing is, you're gonna come in here.
Middle fabulous people though that was buried.
Exactly.
Buried with the money, gold chains, and all kind of nonsense.
Right.
I'm just, I feel
Right.
you. I feel
you can't take that heaven with you. But it's not about what you take, man. It's about what you leave behind. Do you leave a legacy of honesty? Do you leave a legacy of integrity? Do you leave a legacy of love? You see what I'm saying? Those are the things that you leave behind, and those are the things that you should work towards. And my thing is this: I think a lot of people like to use other people's resources, time, and money and effort as a band-aid, to fix something that God should have fixed. That's the reason why I say you have to have a relationship with God. You can't. It's not fair to use someone else's situation to fix yours when it should have been fixed before you got there. When people start asking you for how much money you make, well, you didn't even ask me, You know, what struggles did I had to go through to get it? You know, how much of this do you feel like you're entitled to? You know, let's have an honest conversation. You know, my thing is this: did you even ask me how I was doing? Did you even know what went into making who I am? Let's go ahead and get this stuff out the way first, because that way you'll know who I am, instead of waking up one day and saying that I don't even know who you are anymore.
Did you hear what I said?
You see what I'm saying? That it won't be a surprise. You won't wake up to somebody drinking and beating on you and all these other imaginary things that come to pass. You see what I'm saying? Because you didn't ask the right questions up front.
Hypergamy, as the
exactly. You hadn't asked the right questions up front. All you asked was, how much money do you make? You see what I'm saying? What kind of car do you drive? How can you fulfill all my dreams? When you should have been asking, how can I help? How can I be of service? Because that's what marriage is. Marriage is not selfishness. You know how I know? Because God is love. You know what I mean? Even the Bible will tell you God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. God gives, the devil steals. So whenever you come across somebody who likes to say, you know, what can you do for me? That's somebody who's working for the other team. And I can't deal with that. I really can't. God teaches us to be selfless. The devil teaches us to be selfish. You see what I'm saying? If you don't have a relationship with God, you don't understand that. And a lot of times I hear a lot of women saying, where have all the good men gone? No, they know exactly who you are, and they don't see you, and they avoid you because of what you said, not because of what you look like, because of what you said. You see what I'm saying? And real men of God know how to divine the right from the wrong, especially if they have a relationship with God. So my thing is this: if you want to have the right person to reveal to yourself, you need to talk to God for a minute and make you a clean heart. Clean out all that other stuff. Ask him to fix whatever is inside you that needs to be fixed. A lot, like I said, I told somebody the other day on another live, a lot of times, man, people think they're cups when they're really sieves. You see what I'm saying? Whenever God pours into us, he wants to make sure that everything in us doesn't have any holes so it doesn't leak out. So whatever it is he pours into you, it pours out exceedingly and abundantly. But what happened is when you have all these little insecurities, those are little bitty holes. So when he does pour into you, it leaks right on out. You know, you talk to people in the old kind of way, you treat people in the kind of way. And then what happens is when you tell people you're a Christian, and then the first thing they do is say, well, feed me, give me thirst, give me sustenance, give me liquids, give me water. And you go into your own cup or your sieve and there's nothing there. There's no evidence. You see what I'm saying? There's no fruit of the spirit there. So how can you tell people that you're a Christian when you have nothing to offer? You know, my grandmother always said, what goes in the well comes up in the bucket. And somebody talks to me, they're going to get some Jesus. They're going to get some God, because that's who I am. You know, my bucket is sealed, it's tight, it runneth over. You see what I'm saying? I'm going to always give somebody something to uplift them. But that's the main reason why a lot of people have holes in their cups. They have holes, they have sieves, because they let the world poke holes in them and tell them who they're not, when they should be talking to God to tell them who they are, so he can patch up those holes, so we don't put these undue pressures on people who are doing what they're supposed to be doing and robbing them of their glory and robbing God of his glory. That's all I got to say about that.
Man, I like that. I like that. I like what you said, JB. I also like what Elder was saying. What Elder was saying to me makes a lot of sense as well. I think that it's important, as we're basically saying, is you definitely want to have the right conversations, right? So you want to make sure that you get those hard conversations out of the way. The number one and number two reasons for divorce, and also for people who are in relationships, most of the arguments come from number one, money, right? And then number two, sex. So I think that is so important that those two things are discussed thoroughly. You talk about money. I mean, really get into the nitty gritty of how much do you make? How much do I make? Do we have enough to where the lifestyle that you want to live, is that going to be something that you can work with? Or do I make enough money to satisfy your spending? Or can we come together with our finances to make a happy home, maybe to invest in the home? And then when you get a little bit closer, you also want to talk about credit scores and things of that nature, because if you don't have no credit, you can't get nothing anyway. If you got bad credit, you're not going to be able to own no home or anything of that nature. And so those are very important conversations, because I think that every man, and this is a bit controversial, but every man should choose a woman that they can afford. Because I believe that every woman has a different lifestyle that she wants to live. Some people are high spenders. They love to shop, the Fendi bags and things of that nature. And if you ain't providing that, then they're definitely not going to be looking your way. And if you're trying to force that and ain't got the money, then you're just making a fool out of yourself. And you just, in most cases, being used for your money. So you have those conversations and say, can we build wealth together? Can we build something solid, not just for us right now, where we could be comfortable, but for our future children, for our grandchildren. So we have to have those hard conversations. And this is where the unrealistic expectations come forth, because these conversations aren't taking place. Get those hard conversations out the way, and then you'll find out the true essence of a person. You'll find out if they do have substance. And of course, the most important thing is to develop a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. You guys have to have a God foundation. And I'll say it again. I say it on every video because I think it's important. Number one, you have to be spiritually compatible. You got to, serve the same God, have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. Number two, you definitely have to be socially compatible. You have to be able to have fun together. You have to be able to talk about anything, communicate about those sacred things that you wouldn't tell anybody else. You got to be comfortable and have those conversations. And number three, you have to be sexually compatible. Now, we are here with a group of Christians. Now, I know everybody is not abstinent and is not waiting to have sex, but at least have the conversation about what you like to do sexually, what you want to do. And so those expectations are set, and these are where the arguments and the divorces take place. If even in Christendom, you haven't discussed sex, you haven't discussed how often you want to have it, what you like to do, all of that kind of stuff. And I think that is the taboo subject, but it's something that you have to have. And once you get that out the way, you can say, okay, yeah, she's down with what I like to do. He's down with what I like to do. And so when I know when we come into this marriage bed, into this marriage covenant, there shouldn't be any issues, Like
that's right. No issues.
Marriage is honorable in all, and the bed undefiled, but whoremongers and adulterers God will judge. So whatever we decide to do in that bed was between us, but we got to be in agreement. Now, I've met women, I've talked to women who don't do certain things. And so, and even I'm sure women have, men ain't doing certain things that you like. So you have to have those conversations. So anybody can jump in there, but from what JB is saying to Elder, communication is very important. See, when you talk to somebody and you start asking them those hard questions, not just what's your favorite color? What's your favorite restaurant? That surface stuff, that's good to know. But to really get into the true essence of a person's character and their attitude and see what they feel about things, that's important. And that's what we should be doing. And I think social media, causes people to have a false sense of reality. What you see on social media, you could be anybody you want to be on social media. But, a lot of people be living in their basements with fake stuff in the background, like they're on trips and things of that nature. I'm telling you, people are, a lot of scams, and people want you to believe that they're at this certain level, and it is true. But sometimes when we get to that point and when we're trying to compare what we have to others, that's when we can, get ourselves in trouble. But go ahead and jump in. I just wanted to say that anybody can jump in there if you want to, or we can move on to the next dating issue.
Don't be scared now.
Listen, Brian,
move on.
Look at the Ryan and Tijuana is something else. I see the eye contact. I see the looks.
I didn't do nothing. I asked her a question and she answered it according to her faith. According to her faith.
You guys are dropping gems. You guys are helping people. And I'll go to the third thing. Like I said, this is from a therapist, and we got a little bit more time to discuss these things. But number three, it says the third biggest dating issue is overemphasis on physical attraction and underemphasis on character. And so she says that in the journey of love, we all seek a connection that goes beyond the surface. Yet it's a common challenge in dating to get caught up in physical appearances, prioritizing looks over character. We become entranced by external beauty, neglecting the depth and richness of a person's inner self. Now, she says when we allow physical attraction to overshadow character, we miss out on the opportunity to forge deep and meaningful relationships. We may find ourselves in shallow connections that lack substance built on a foundation that can easily crumble as time passes. So let's talk about that for a little bit. And that can go in so many directions. Go ahead and jump in there, anybody.
We're gonna let the ladies answer this one first. We've been talking first, so we're gonna let the ladies answer this one first.
I'm ready.
Because the women, right, y'all not more visual than y'all want to give yourselves credit for, but I'm not gonna get in trouble tonight.
Yes, we are. We are. And we know what we like. We know what catches our eye. But a lot of times we get lost instantly when he looks so good and he started talking and I went, he don't have what I want, but he looked good. So we may tolerate it for just a little bit, just to get what we want to get out of it, which is just keeping it real. But at the end of the day, that's nothing that we could last. As long as y'all last a long time with something that look good, but just a bird brain or just as simple. We don't last as long as you guys with that. Okay, anyone differ?
I agree with you because no man ever sees a beautiful woman and they say, oh, that girl, she got a beautiful mind. We don't say that. We say, oh my goodness, her body is fine. That girl, she look good, because men are visual creatures. So I don't disagree with you, Tijuana. And so we can, and I have in many cases, looked at a woman, she was fine, liked the body style and was attracted to that, but knew long-term from the conversations that we were having, this is definitely not going to be someone that I'm going to deal with long-term, but it's going to be somebody that I'm going to have a lot of fun with. It may just be a sexual thing or something of that nature. So I'm just saying.
You entertained it for longer than the woman would entertain it.
I was getting something out of it.
He entertained it for a season.
For a season, I entertained it. It was physical,
not a lifetime.
A season.
We won't even give it a season. We won't even give it a season.
And so that's the difference. But I like what you said, Tijuana, because that is kind of the difference between men and women. At some cases, I know we're saved and most of us have accepted Christ. So we're looking for different things. We're looking at a woman's character or attitude. Because once we get past the physical attraction, we're looking at, is she intelligent? Is she smart? Because I've had some conversations with women and was like, man, this girl is just getting fabulous. I mean, she don't even sound like she's even intelligent. Has she finished high school? Does she have a GED? So, you meet people like that, like, man, okay, so I know what this is going to be about. We can be friends, but we ain't gonna be more than that. But I think that you gotta get to know outside of physical attraction. Can she cook? Is she resourceful? Can she help me? Can I help her? Can I trust her if I gave her some money to make a down payment or something? Can I trust her to make some good business decisions? Things of that nature. More than a physical attraction. Is she a God-fearing woman? Can we pray together? Will she be able to cover me in prayer? Will she be able to give me a word of encouragement when I'm feeling down? Will I be able to provide that for her? Because sometimes you can even be with some people who are saved, but they don't have a close relationship with Jesus Christ. And when you get deep spiritually, they're like, man, I don't know what you talk about. I'm saved, but I ain't that deep. So you got your different kind of people, but go ahead and jump in there.
You know what, Tomell, I'm going to give you an example, man. Today I was on these TikTok streets just perusing, you know what I'm saying? Just scrolling or whatever. And I ran across this one young lady. She was up there talking about, yes, I'm up to 125 pounds now. I'm thick now, you know what I'm saying? That type of thing. I said, okay, she got a nice little personality. So I'm going to hit follow. So I kept scrolling. I said, let me go back and find out what this girl talking about. 5 minutes later, she was talking about misogyny. I was like, you know what? Unfollow.
Oh, man.
Let me tell y'all something, man. Beauty will get you to the door, but your mouth determines whether you stay or not. You see what I'm saying? I have this conversation with my female friends all the time. I said, the problem with a lot of things, a lot of women, is that you guys rely too much on your beauty. You know what I mean? And not the other intangibles that make you who you are. You know what I'm saying? For the most part, every woman has the same standard equipment. It comes standard on all models. But my thing is this, what are the luxury features that you have? Do you come with integrity? Do you come with intelligence? Do you come with nurturing? Do you come with, resources? Do you come with guidance? Can you nurture children? You know what I mean? Do you have a relationship with God? Do you respect me? Do you respect men? Do you respect wisdom? You see what I'm saying? Those are the type of things that men look for. Those are the extra features that men look for. But anybody who tells you who goes and buy a car, it don't matter, what this other stuff look like if the engine don't work. And I think a lot of times we got a lot of women out here whose engine does not work. They can't take you nowhere. They look real good sitting in the driveway. But the minute you crank them up, that engine get to knocking.
It don't be.
I got to have this.
It don't be.
I got to do this. You know what I'm saying?
It don't just be the engine. It be that transmission.
Man, it can't take you nowhere, man. You know what I'm saying? Can't take you nowhere.
That transmission fall right on the ground.
That's right. Even the Bible tell you, man, don't beauty is fading, and you know what I'm saying, deceitful. You see what I'm saying? So a lot of times guys fall trap for that because A, they don't have a relationship with God, B, they don't study their word, and C, they submit to their flesh. You know what I mean? God will not give you any of the desires of your heart until you conquer all three. You have to conquer your flesh, you got to have a relationship with God, and you got to have a desire for his word. So those are the things that separates you from the masses. That's going to separate the people who gets an audience with the king or not. So that's one of the things I like to talk to men all the time. Yeah, you can go out there, you can, get you an Uber every now and then, but after a while, you want to own your own car, man. You know what I'm saying? You want to put the title in your name. You want people to be like, man, I respect that brother. Look, his wife is respectable. His family is respectable. I asked somebody to ask me the other day, she said, you single, right? I said, yeah. She said, you got any kids? I said, no. And she said, why not? So let me tell you something. I said, I have an idea what I need. And I start with the end in mind. I said, the first thing I want to do is I want to find a woman who my kids would be proud to call mom. You see what I'm saying? Then after that, I want to find a woman who I'll be proud to call my wife. You know what I mean? And then I want to have a woman who God will say, I'm proud to have her as my daughter. You see what I'm saying? So if I start backwards that way, then I know who qualifies and who doesn't. You see what I'm saying? So my thing is women need to stop allowing other women just because they're beautiful to get away with being less than they should be. You know what I mean? They'll let other women make mistakes, and the first thing they say, but you're so beautiful. What does that have to do with what she did, y'all? Y'all are not doing her any favors. Just say, hey, look, why did you start asking real questions? Why did you make that decision? Those are the types of questions you need to ask and say, well, I've never felt like that, and then let that come on out. Because what happens is you allow that person to address those deep inner issues that they have so they can fix it. And then once you fix those things, then you can develop into the person that you need to develop to. And then you become a resource to someone who needs you. You see what I'm saying? So those are the things that we really have conversations about and stop leaning on beauty. After a while, most men get hip to the game. They know they put makeup on anybody. Have y'all seen some of the makeup transformations?
Oh man!
Well, these folks, I'm like, man, wait a minute, that's some witchcraft. You see what I'm saying? And that right there lets me know that I'd rather have somebody who's good on the inside, because you can paint a house whatever color you want to paint it. You see what I'm saying? So I'm gonna leave that there.
And then anybody jump in. I think elders get ready to come on. And so we have about 15 minutes left. And so definitely break down your points and drop these gems. And then we'll go ahead and get to the conclusion.
Yeah, so I think a lot of times the overemphasis on physical attraction comes from the outside. It comes from those who we surround ourselves with. Because a lot of times you meet a guy and you're like, oh, he's so good looking. But you may catch the drift that he's not all that together. He's not all that there. He's not as bright as he may seem, but everybody else will be like, but girl, he looks so fine. But girl, he will look good on your arm. But girl, if you take him to church and he likes to wear that nice suit, y'all gonna look good together. And then the family be like, well, y'all know y'all gonna make some pretty babies. Look at his complexion, look at his family. But what that gonna do for us? In the long term, what is that gonna do for us? Him looking good is not going to do nothing if I can't have a conversation with him, because everybody else don't got to live with him. You got to live with him. Everybody else is not marrying him. You are marrying him. So at the end of the day, everybody done got y'all together and match y'all up because y'all look so good together, and y'all gonna make some pretty babies, and then y'all get in a room together and y'all can't even look at each other. You can't even have a conversation because I don't know what to say to you. Do you work? Do you have a job? Do you have ambition? Do you have dreams? Do you have goals? I'm trying to go somewhere. I want to have a nonprofit. I want to start a ministry. Do you want to have kids? Do you want to adopt kids? There are different things, there are different aspects of the relationship that we can never truly discuss because we're so caught up on what our relationship could look like to everybody else instead of what it actually is behind closed doors. We idolize a lot of people. We idolize a lot of relationships. And so then we are sitting here looking at what everybody else looks like. That's the TikTok generation. We're looking at what it looks like. Half the TikTok generation is fake in the first place. Half of what they're putting out there is fake in the first place. It's just for clicks. It's not real. It's not reality. It's not what's really happening. And then the ones that are really giving you emphasis on what is happening in relationships, whether it's arguments, whether it's transition, we don't even hold on to that information. We don't even receive that as actual things that can happen in a relationship because we're so busy laughing at it. We're so busy following it that we don't realize this is real. This is what real life is. This is what a real relationship is. This is what it takes to be in a relationship. You got to talk. You got to have a conversation. You have to have a certain level of education. And you got to be willing that if the person don't have it, here it is. If the person is not on the same level as you, are you willing to help that person achieve or aspire to do better, to gain more, to be who they're supposed to be? Because a lot of times, I'm going to say it, savior complex, we see what the person can be and we stay a little bit longer as opposed to helping them get to where they need to get to. And if they ain't willing to go nowhere, you need to drop them like yesterday's news. That's where we mess up. Physical attraction is not going to hold it. You've got to be willing to either put in the work or leave because you realize it's not, the character is not there. We're not clicking, we're not matching, we're not meshing up, and we're not even willing to push past what we see. So we so busy looking at everything else that we can't do better and we can't grow. You got to drop it.
That's good. That's good stuff there. Anybody else want to jump in there and add to what Elder was saying? That's she broke that thing down. That's good.
I ain't got nothing to say, Elder. As a on behalf of anti-Giants fans all over America, I ain't got nothing to say. Now, when football season comes, I'm gonna open my mouth and say something. But tonight, I got nothing to say about that.
Yeah, that's good. And so we want to get to the conclusion. And so we have these dating issues that's taking place. And so before we end it, I want to give you guys a chance to add a solution in this dating scene. I'm out of it, thank God. I have a beautiful wife, and she's very supportive, very encouraging, and we get along very well. We have a good time, a lot of love making going on as well. And so it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. But I just wanted to say that because, you know, whenever you talk about sex, it's always something negative, but this is in the confines of marriage. It's a covenant relationship. And so I don't want our sex talks to be anything that's taboo. When you have a conversation, a discussion with me, we talk about everything. We get down to the nitty gritty. We keep it real. And so, you know, we keep it open. This is a safe place for dialogue. So I'm just trying to bridge the gap of communication between men and women so that we can better understand one another. And these relationships can be much more successful. And so they will lead to engagement, to marriage, rather than failing. And so that's also, once again, I do want to say this before I give my guests a chance. I do have the book out, and I'm going to always promote this book. It's called How to Get Over a Breakup. And I'm going to put it up real quick. There it is, How to Get Over a Breakup. And I'm telling you, it will bless your life. And if you're single, if you're engaged, if you're dating, this book would definitely be a blessing to you. I'm sure you gain some good knowledge and insight into the dating and also some other things that you should look for and some breakup tips on how to get over a breakup. Because at one time I went through a tough breakup and God gave me some wonderful breakup tips on how to get over it. And so it has helped me, and now I'm trying to help others as well. But enough of that. Go ahead and you guys can, what do you think is most important? Solutions on how we can navigate through this ghetto dating scene. And when we come out on the other end, how can we be more successful? And go ahead. Anybody can jump in there. And also make sure you leave your social media handles as well.
All right, I'll go ahead and I'll get started. So one of the things that you have to discover when you're looking at building a connection, especially a romantic connection, is number one, who are you? You know, who is it that you have been called to be? Not who people think you should be, not who, you know, everybody would approve, but who are you called to be? And what is it that you are supposed to be doing on this earth? That's number one. Number two, and Jared always says this, and this is something that I basically live by now. What is your why? Defining your why. Why is it that you want the things that you want? Why is it? If you define your why, then you will discover who. And the last thing is this: always be looking to better yourself. Don't look to the next man to try to build you up. If they want to help you, they will help you. God will bless you to be helped by that person. But always be looking to build yourself up. I think for many men and women, some of them, a lot of them are looking for a handout. They're looking for someone to give them something, but they don't know what it is. So always be looking to improve yourself. Always be looking to, when you come into someone's life, be looking to how you can add to that particular person, not necessarily what you can gain. So that's all I got to say. Yeah, and that's it for now.
And Brian, how can people get a hold of you as well?
So you can find me on Facebook under Brian Thomas. You can find me on TikTok, Coach BT316. You can find me on Instagram, Coach BT316. And I also have a website which just dropped, just got revamped. It's going to be www.championshipcaliberconnections.com, that you can actually go on there and book a time with me to sit down and help you get your life in the most positive direction possible.
All right. Appreciate it, Brian. I'm going to go next, man. The Bible says, great is he who lays down his life for a friend. I'm going to take this opportunity to give an answer or a solution. My brother, A.B. Bracewell, wrote a book last year. And the name of his book is called The Sexual Miseducation of the Black Man in America. It looks like this. Okay. You can get it on Amazon, or you can go to his website to find it. Basically, our women deserve a better class of men. I'm going to go ahead and say that. And what we're going to have to do is we have to get back to who we used to be. We're going to have to be back being better men. I suggest that everybody, every man get that book to reevaluate yourself as a man. You see what I'm saying? Sometimes us men, we think that we're perfect and we know all the answers. But it wasn't until I read AB's book, I was like, man, I got some holes I got to fill. You know what I mean? And I really appreciate that. Yep, he's celebrating his full year of his book being out, and I want to make sure I take the opportunity to highlight his accomplishments, and his situation is to make people better. So my thing is this: I want you guys to make sure that you go out and get a copy, you know, and take time out to read it. You know, men, especially men, because it teaches us how we are to deal with ourselves, you know, and how we deal with women as well. So we don't give them as much to complain about. So my thing is, once you're getting yourself straightened out, then there are no more excuses, ladies. You see what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure that AB will probably have another book that says the sexual miseducation of the Black woman in America. I'm looking forward to that once he completes that, if he decides he wants to complete that. But I always want to take the opportunity to plug my brother's books, because he's done a great job. And you guys can find me on Lost in Translation podcast. Most of the people that you see on the screen are my people, and I really do appreciate them coming out. And anytime I go live, they're always there. They always hit the like button. They always hit share and subscribe. And I love to share what I'm doing in other places, not just on YouTube, but what we're doing on Facebook as well, so they can actually understand exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to put families back together. In order for us to do that, we have to put people back together one person at a time, and also to make sure that you have a relationship with God. So that's where you guys can find me on YouTube, on Instagram, on the Lost in Translation podcast. Tomell, as always, it's been a pleasure for you to have me once again. It's always a pleasure to be around my friends, man, because this is where I got started, man. I really do appreciate y'all. And if y'all go to my channel, I have grown a lot since the last time you saw me get started. So I'm looking forward to where we go from here. So I do appreciate y'all. Thank you for having me once again.
Yes. Okay. Sorry. I had it on mute. So yes, the points that I want to say is number one, don't try to be what you think the person wants you to be. Number two is don't try to say what you think they want you to say. The key is be real, be authentic, and trust God. If you be who you're called to be, if you be who God called you to be, if you be who God created you to be, then you can be nothing else but who you're supposed to be in the relationship. You can be nothing else but who you need to be in the relationship. You can be the asset. You can be the help. You can be, you can fill in whatever needs to be filled in, whatever position at whatever time needs to be done, depending on the transition that your relationship is happening to go through at the time. But the key is don't be fake and don't rely on what you've heard other people say or what you've seen other people go through or what they've been or what they've experienced. Rely and trust on God because every relationship is different. And what your mama went through and what your grandma went through and what your best friend went through may not be what you're going to go through. You can take from what they've experienced and what they say, blow the trash back and drink the water. Take whatever is going to help edify you and build you up so that you can be the best person you can be in a relationship. But don't take their problems and their hangups and hiccups and apply that's going to happen to you and cause you to do self-sabotage. So be who you need to be, trust God, and it will work out. My Facebook handle is exactly what you see, Elder Fearfully Made Holman. I also have a page where I inspire people, encourage people, Dr. A Inspires. And I'm a Christian counselor. I'm a counselor who happens to be a Christian. Let me say it like that. I'm a counselor who happens to be a Christian. I have my license. And I also help evangelize, teach, preach, whatever. I do it. And that's why I encourage other people to do. Learn as much as you can, get as much as you can, and be a help to the kingdom and to your relationship. Love you guys. Thank you, Tomell.
All right. I will piggyback on what Coach said about communication and just getting to know who you are. And lastly, have a relationship with God. Because like the Bible said, in all thy ways acknowledge him and he'll direct thy path. So if you acknowledge God, he'll tell you where, when, what, and how. And that's all I have.
And how can they get a hold of you, Tijuana?
Okay, so they can get a hold of me on Facebook, Tijuana Agnew, or Instagram, Tijuana Talent.
Beautiful, beautiful. And so I think it's been a wonderful discussion, conversation. Once again, thank you, Brian, Jared, and Elder Anastasia, Elder Fearfully Made Holman, and Tijuana. Thank you so much for being a part of this discussion. Also, I do have a group that I founded called Single Save But No Kids. And we have these discussions from time to time to help encourage and motivate others to establish a personal relationship with Jesus Christ first. And then we want to be an encouragement to the singles as well. And now that I'm married, I'm not so much in that area as much as I was before, but I still want to help other singles. I've only been married for a short time, and it'd be coming up on a year in about 2 months. So I feel blessed, and I thank God for that. And thanks.
Congratulations, sir.
Brian came with the sound effects and everything tonight. So that's Brian with the sound effects. Appreciate that, brother. Go ahead. You was gonna say something, Brian?
No, that was the sound effects. That was not. I'm innocent this time. Usually,
Was it JB?
That was me, man. I'm upgrading over here, man. Hey, let me tell you something.
Sound effects tonight.
You two been good to me, man.
He been frying the whole time.
That is dope. I thought it was Brian. It's
No,
been JB and Brian. Oh,
you two been good to me, player.
But I love y'all too. I love y'all with the love of the Lord Jesus. We hope that we said some things that would encourage you, motivate you, help you through the dating process. And I hope that everybody's encouraged, and we'll be having some more discussions in the future. And once again, thanks again, Brian, JB, Elder Anastasia, because they are now heading SS&K for me, and they're doing a great job. So if you're single, saved, but no kids, definitely join the group. And also, Tijuana, been knowing you for so many years. She's been a great friend. We've always had good times, have fun together. And Tijuana is silly. If you've ever met Tijuana in person, she is silly. You guys get to know Tijuana. She's good people. But all right, I love you all with the love of the Lord. And we catch you guys on the next one. God bless. God bless.
Bye.